The badge reader blinked red while 40 people watched me fail to open a door I had opened every workday for 14 years. On the other side of the glass, Evan reached up to the dispatch screen and removed my name. 1 second, it read, Lena Voss, shift control. The next, my lane went gray. My radio kept talking. Dock 2 needs a release. Lena, where do you want the Meridian carts? Who pulled Route 19? Evan pointed at the folded paper in my hand. His signature sat at the bottom in blue ink. You're locked out, he said through the glass. Follow the order. It was 10:38 on the busiest Monday shift we had run all year. The Grand Meridian's procurement director had been waiting 23 minutes for my answer. So I walked to the visitor desk, asked the guard to scan Evan's written instruction, and emailed it to her unchanged. Naomi Brooks. Per your request, attached is the written direction governing today's service diversion. Lena Voss pressed send. Behind the glass, my cousin looked at me as if I had finally done what he wanted. That was the part I didn't understand. The visitor desk sat between a rack of loaner safety glasses and a framed photograph of the plant in 1986, when the building had been half its current size, and every man in the picture seemed to own the same brown tie. Curtis, our day shift guard, lifted Evan's order off the scanner. You need the original back? Yes. He handed it over carefully, like it might be hot. Through the glass wall, I could see the laundry floor in slices, white steam, blue carts, orange safety vests moving between stainless steel machines. A cart builder named Priya had stopped with both hands on a stack of folded tablecloths. Mateo Ruiz stood at dock 2 with his radio against his chin, staring straight at me. I pressed the transmit button. Mateo, follow the route card currently clipped to the Meridian reserve carts. His answer came after a pause. The blue-marked card? Yes. Evan's voice cut over mine. All route decisions come through me until further notice. Mateo lowered his radio. Even through the glass, I could see him look from Evan to the carts. The Meridian cards had blue diagonal lines across the top, my mark for emergency reserve. I had drawn them at 5:17 that morning with the china pencil still tucked behind my ear. It was a short, thick stick wrapped in peeling paper, cheap enough to lose and useful enough that I never did. Evan opened the office door just far enough to step into the lobby without letting me pass. Give me the radio. Am I suspended? Give me the radio, Lena. Am I suspended? He held out his hand. He had put on his suit jacket since I'd last seen him, though one side of his collar was trapped underneath it. Evan dressed like a banker whenever a customer might appear, and like a mechanic whenever our mothers did. Today he had somehow managed both: polished shoes, white shirt, and a thin black streak of belt grease across one cuff. We're not doing this in front of the floor, he said. You disabled my badge in front of the floor. His jaw moved once. Curtis became intensely interested in the visitor log. Evan lowered his voice. You refused a direct instruction during a critical launch. I'm removing you from dispatch while I review it. That sounds like a suspension. It sounds like you hand me the radio. I unclipped it from my belt and placed it in his palm. He closed his fingers around it, then noticed the blue pencil behind my ear. His eyes stayed there half a second too long. Your laptop is company property, he said. It's bolted to the dispatch desk. Your tablet, then? It's in my locker. Curtis will escort you. Curtis looked up. I will. Evan gave him a look. Right, Curtis said. I will. My phone vibrated in my pocket. For one foolish second, I hoped it was Naomi acknowledging the attachment, asking the obvious question, maybe telling me I had done exactly what the contract required. Instead, the screen showed Mom. I silenced it. Evan saw the name. Some of the hardness left his face, which made me angrier than if he had smiled. Go home, he said. Let everyone get through today. Everyone? Don't make this bigger. On the laundry floor, the ironer alarm began its 2-note complaint. A sheet had probably crossed one of the feed belts crooked. I knew the sound well enough to picture the jam before I saw 2 operators pull the emergency cord. People went back to work. They had to. Steam did not care about family humiliation, and neither did a tunnel washer holding 900 pounds of wet linen. Curtis walked me to the locker room by way of the painted pedestrian lane. Nobody spoke until a dryer operator named June leaned around her cart and called, "You finally steal something worth taking?" "Company jet," I said. June glanced up at the pipes rattling over our heads. "We have a jet?" "Evan keeps it behind washer 3. A few people laughed because they were kind, and a few because they were scared. That was the worst sound of the morning. At my locker, Curtis stood with his back turned while I removed my tablet, purse, and lunch. The lunch was chicken salad in a container my mother had returned to me 3 times without its lid. I found the lid in the bottom of my locker beside 2 loose zip ties and a sealed pack of earplugs. "Tablet," Curtis reminded me softly. I gave it to him. He glanced at my purse. "Anything else?" "The deed to the jet." "Don't get me fired, Lena." "I'm trying not to get myself fired." His face changed, just enough to tell me he thought I already was. At 4:12 that morning, Evan had still been my cousin. He came into dispatch carrying 2 coffees and a white bakery bag spotted with butter. He set the coffee with 1 sugar beside my keyboard, correct as always. "You look terrible," he said. "You look expensive." "It's a suit from Men's Warehouse." "Exactly." He grinned and pulled a cheese Danish from the bag. For 10 minutes, we worked the way we had worked since we were both too young to know the difference between helping the family and belonging to it. I read out projected pounds by route. Evan wrote numbers on the glass board. Caldera Dining Group needed 6,000 napkins, 3,000 aprons, and 800 chef coats, sorted by size before the afternoon outbound. Grand Meridian had its normal Monday volume, plus 4 banquet turns. "We can float Ironer 4 to Meridian after 11, I said. "Caldera needs the presentation fold. Caldera needs a rectangle. Meridian needs reserve capacity until the convention floors close. Do not call it a rectangle in front of Caldera. Then don't call stacking napkins a presentation fold in front of me." He smiled despite himself. That was Evan's dangerous quality. He could be cornered by facts and still make you feel the 2 of you were sharing a joke. He had rescued 3 restaurant routes everyone else wanted to sell. He knew fuel hedging, linen loss ratios, and exactly how long to let Aunt Sharon complain before offering the solution he had prepared in advance. He was good at his job. He was also very good at placing his mistakes in someone else's hands before they started smoking. At 4:47, my phone rang. Luis Ortega, the Meridian's overnight facilities manager, did not say hello. We had a sprinkler line break in basement storage. "How much exposure?" "All of the west cage. Water's clean, but ceiling debris came down with it. Do not send anything out until you photograph the carts and record the seal numbers." "Already doing it." That was why I liked Luis. He estimated 2 full banquet sets compromised. The medical convention's first breakfast seating began at 7. Their emergency reserve at our plant would cover the breakfast and most of lunch, but only if we released it immediately and held finishing space for the dirty return. I put Luis on speaker. Evan stopped eating. "Invoke the reserve," I told Luis. "I'll send a written recovery schedule by 6. Evan was already shaking his head. Luis heard the silence. "Problem?" "No," I said. At the same time, Evan said, "We need 10 minutes. Luis exhaled through his nose. "I have 800 physicians looking for coffee at 7. "Give us 10, Evan said, and ended the call from my desk. I looked at his finger resting on the phone. "You want to take that back?" "Caldera has executives arriving at 10. "Do Caldera's executives eat tablecloths?" "They expect the launch volume staged for inspection. The Meridian Reserve is contractually protected. The reserve provision requires reasonable capacity. It requires a finishing line. It requires written notice if we divert one." "Then I assume you're not planning to divert one." He picked up the Danish and took a bite that seemed to require more chewing than pastry should. The equipment loan sat between us without being mentioned. Everybody in the family knew the rate adjusted in October. Caldera's contract was supposed to make the new payment ordinary instead of terrifying. Evan had spent 7 months landing it. He had learned the names of district chefs, flown coach to 3 states, and once driven through an ice storm because a Caldera vice president changed a tasting at the last minute. He had earned the launch. He had also promised something our plant could not do. "I can split the shift," I said. "Give Caldera ironers 1 and 2. Meridian gets 4 from 6 to 9, then again after noon. Move the restaurant mats to tomorrow." "We're already behind on mats. Restaurants can live 1 day with their current dirt. You have a gift for account management." "I'm serious." "So am I. Full Caldera priority until the launch is off the dock." He walked into his office. 5 minutes later, he returned with a printed instruction. "Caldera launch priority. All finishing and dispatch resources." Below that, in smaller type, "Do not release Grand Meridian emergency stock until Caldera outbound is complete. Direct all Grand Meridian inquiries to Lena Voss for expectation management." I read it twice. "You put my name on it. You manage Meridian. You're ordering me to explain a decision you made. That's called having a job. What reason am I giving them? Capacity delay. That sounds accidental. It is a capacity delay. An ironer isn't broken, you're choosing another customer." He uncapped a pen. "Do you want me to write choice on it? I want you to honor the reserve. I need you to stop treating one contract clause like it fell from Mount Sinai. And I need you to stop selling Tuesday's capacity twice because you look good in a suit." The pen stopped above the paper. I wished the sentence back as soon as it landed, not because it was untrue, because it was true in the exact way that made it impossible for him to hear anything after it. He signed the bottom. "Follow the order," he said. At 5:17, I marked the Meridian route cards with the blue pencil anyway, not to defy him, to keep the reserve carts from being mixed into standard hotel inventory before we settled the dispute. I wrote the time beside each seal number and had Priya initial the cards. At 6:03, I sent Evan a capacity report showing both accounts by 15-minute finishing blocks. At 6:26, I sent it again with the contract provision highlighted. At 7:40, he moved the Meridian carts away from Dock 2. At 8:15, Naomi Brooks called for the first time. By 9 o'clock, Evan had started telling people Ironer 4 was down for preventive maintenance. It was not. I could see it running Caldera napkins. At 9:52, Mateo asked why finished Meridian Reserve was being rolled back into storage. I told him to hold the carts at Dock 2 until Evan gave me a written revision. At 10:11, Naomi emailed, "Please provide the cause of diversion, duration, affected inventory, and name of the manager authorizing deviation from our emergency service agreement." At 10:27, I printed her message and carried it into Evan's office. He read it. "Tell her I'll call this afternoon." She asked for a written answer. "Then tell her we're preparing one." "We have one." I placed his signed instruction on the desk. His expression went flat. "Do not send that outside this building, then revise it. I am giving you a direct instruction." "Which one? The signed instruction telling me to manage Meridian's expectations, or the spoken one telling me not to show Meridian why I'm changing them?" That was when he stood, walked to his computer, and killed my badge. Now, sitting in my car with my purse on the passenger seat and my chicken salad warming in the July heat, I watched the plant doors open and close for everyone but me. My phone showed 4 missed calls from my mother. Before I could decide which version of the morning she deserved, a new email appeared. Naomi Brooks had replied to my message. Received. Preserve the original and all related service records. Do not alter the route documentation. A second message arrived before I finished reading the first. Grand Meridian is freezing releases pending executive review. I need to know whether your access was removed before or after you transmitted this order. I looked through the windshield at the smoked glass windows of Evan's office. He was standing there watching me. This time he did not look relieved. I answered with one sentence. My access was removed before transmission, immediately after I requested a written revision. The message left my outbox. 3 seconds later, My company email signed itself out. Evan disappeared from the window. I put the original order inside the zippered section of my purse, between my checkbook and a packet of tissues. Then I called my mother. "Tell me you're not in the parking lot," she said. "I'm in the parking lot." "Oh, Lena, what did Evan tell you?" "He said there was a disagreement. He locked me out of the building. He said temporarily." My badge didn't blink temporarily. "Come over. I need to talk to Denise first. You need to come over before Sharon gets here." That told me Aunt Sharon was already on her way. My mother lived 12 minutes from the plant in a brick ranch with a maple tree that dropped branches whenever the forecast mentioned wind. I'd been paying part of her mortgage since her surgery, but she still introduced it as the house she and my father bought, as though the bank had stopped participating after he died. Aunt Sharon's silver SUV was angled across the driveway when I arrived. She parked like every strip of asphalt came with her name on it. The three of us had spent thousands of Sunday afternoons around my mother's kitchen table. We had signed vendor checks there, folded holiday newsletters there, and once decided whether to replace a boiler while eating a sheet cake that said "Happy Retirement" to a man who came back 6 weeks later. That morning, there was no food on the table, just my mother's pill organizer, 3 sweating glasses of iced tea, and a copy of Evan's suspension notice. He had emailed it to them before I left the parking lot. Aunt Sharon tapped the page with one coral-painted fingernail. Unauthorized release of confidential operational material. It was the order governing Meridian service. It was internal. The contract requires us to identify the manager authorizing a diversion. It doesn't require us to hand the customer our laundry. The laundry is what they pay us to hand them. My mother closed her eyes. "Please." Aunt Sharon leaned back. She and Evan had the same way of pressing their tongue against one cheek when they were trying not to say the cruelest available thing. "Did you mean to freeze the account?" she asked. "I meant to answer Naomi's question." "You knew what would happen. I knew she wouldn't like it." "Lena, what would you have had me tell her?" "That Evan would call." She asked for a written answer because he had already avoided 2 calls. My mother looked at the suspension notice. "Couldn't you have waited until after the Caldera trucks left?" The hotel had 800 convention guests eating off whatever they could find. They have other linen. They had breakfast linen. They did not have enough for lunch. Aunt Sharon's glass hit the table harder than necessary. And now we don't have their dirty return. Do you understand what a freeze means? We cannot process what they won't release. We cannot invoice what we don't process. I understand exactly what it means. Then why do you sound proud? That caught me. I looked at my mother, hoping she would object. She adjusted Tuesday's pills into Wednesday's compartment. "I'm not proud," I said. "I'm unemployed before lunch." "You are suspended pending review," Aunt Sharon said, "without pay. We don't pay people while they damage customer relationships." My mother flinched. I stood so quickly the table shifted. I steadied her iced tea before it spilled, an ordinary reflex that made me feel stupid. Aunt Sharon's face softened. "Sit down." "No. Evan is trying to keep the plant full. By selling the same finishing hours twice. By growing. Those are different things. He brought us Caldera when the bank was asking questions neither of you wanted to answer. There it was. The equipment loan, my mother's mortgage, every frightening number in the family tied into one rope and dropped at my feet. "I sent him the capacity overlap 3 weeks ago," I said. "Then this is partly your failure, too." "How?" "Your operations. If the promise was impossible, you should have made him understand." I laughed once. It did not sound amused. My mother finally looked up. "Can you fix it?" The question was so familiar that for a moment I nearly answered yes. A driver called out sick. Lena could fix it. A customer found lipstick on a napkin. Lena could fix it. Evan committed 2 finishing lines to 3 accounts. Lena should have made him understand. I can't fix anything from the visitor parking lot. "Apologize for sending the document," my mother said. "Not for the rest, just for that one thing." "And say what? That the order was true but Naomi shouldn't have seen it?" "Say you reacted under pressure." I followed it. Aunt Sharon folded the suspension notice into thirds. Do not get clever with me. I reached into my purse, felt the edge of Evan's original order, and withdrew my hand without taking it out. I'm going home. Denise is conducting a review at 2, Aunt Sharon said. You'll attend remotely. Until then, you are not to contact employees or customers. Naomi contacted me. You're not an employee right now. Funny, the notice says I am. Lena, my mother whispered. I left before I said something that would move permanently into the room. At 1:57, I sat at my dining table in a clean blouse and pajama pants, waiting for Denise Kwan to admit me to a video meeting. The screen showed my own face in a little square. Without the plant behind me, I looked less like a suspended manager than someone calling customer support about a missing package. Denise appeared exactly at 2. Her black hair was pinned up with 2 silver clips. The wall behind her held the framed accounting certificate Evan called her license to ruin lunch. Is anyone else joining? I asked. This is fact-finding, not discipline. That doesn't answer me. No one else is joining. She looked tired. Denise never looked tired. She had once found a $48 fuel discrepancy during a fire drill. She confirmed that I understood the suspension terms, then asked me to describe the morning in sequence. I gave her times. Luis's call at 4:47, the reserve invocation, Evan's written order, my capacity reports at 6:03 and 6:26, the route move at 7:40, Naomi's email at 10:11, my badge cancellation at 10:27. 10:27 or 10:38? Denise asked. Badge cancellation at 10:27. I reached the door at 10:38. How do you know the cancellation time? I was in Evan's office when he did it. Did he state that he was canceling access? He said, if you can't follow chain of command, you don't need dispatch access. Then he clicked my profile. Denise wrote something. Did you instruct Mateo to hold Meridian carts after Evan ordered full Caldera priority? I instructed him to hold them at Dock 2 until we had a written resolution. They were sealed, finished stock, not active equipment capacity. Did you mark the route cards? Yes. With what? My blue china pencil. Where's that pencil now? I touched behind my ear before remembering I had set it in the cup holder of my car. In my car. Where are the cards? They were clipped to the carts when I left. Her eyes moved to a second screen. Do you possess company documents? I possess the signed order Evan handed me and instructed me to follow. The original? Yes. Do not write on it. I wasn't planning to improve it. One corner of Denise's mouth moved. Do not surrender it to anyone without documenting transfer. Sharon told you to ask me for it? I am asking where the records are. Why? Because 2 different timelines were circulated today. The air conditioner clicked on behind me. What's the other timeline? Denise folded her hands. Evan states that Meridian's emergency reserve could not be released due to scheduled maintenance on Ironer 4. He states the customer was informed verbally at 7:45 and that his written priority instruction was an internal staging plan superseded after the maintenance issue. I watched Ironer 4 run Caldera napkins all morning. I know what you said. The machine logs will know too, assuming they're retained. Denise said it evenly, but the sentence sat between us with sharp edges. You think they won't be? I think you should preserve anything already in your possession. Before I could ask more, she returned to her questions. Had I sent the document to anyone besides Naomi? No. Had I made disparaging statements about Evan to staff? Depends whether Men's Warehouse counted. Had I encouraged Grand Meridian to freeze releases? No. Had I known the freeze would threaten Monday's invoice? I had known it was possible. At the end, Denise removed her glasses. Off the record, your joke about the company jet has already reached Sharon. That plant moves information faster than linen. Nothing is off the record today, Lena. You just said, I know what I said. Then she ended the meeting. For the next 2 days, I learned how much of my life had been disguised as work. I woke at 3:50 without an alarm. At 5, I reached for a radio that was not on my belt. I found myself estimating the weight of hotel sheets in a television commercial. When a delivery truck backed down my street, the warning beep made my shoulders tighten. My mother did not call. She sent a picture of a utility bill with the words, "No rush," which meant there was absolutely a rush, and she hated herself for mentioning it. I transferred the usual mortgage amount. My checking balance dropped below the number I had promised myself I would never cross. On Thursday, a courier delivered a thick envelope from Voss Textile Services. Evan had offered me 12 weeks of pay, 3 months of insurance contribution, and a neutral reference in exchange for my resignation, confidentiality, and written acknowledgement that I had acted outside my authority. The acknowledgement was one paragraph. On July 14th, I transmitted proprietary internal material to a customer without authorization, causing avoidable commercial harm. I read it until the words began to look misspelled. 12 weeks of pay would restore what I had transferred to my mother. It would cover insurance. It would let me search for another job without explaining why I needed one before the end of summer. I carried the packet to my car and set it on the passenger seat. The blue china pencil lay in the cup holder beside 2 quarters and a dried leaf. I picked it up and drew a line through the acknowledgement. Then I drove to the diner where Mateo ate after early shift. He was in a back booth with his uniform shirt unbuttoned over a gray t-shirt. When he saw me, he put down his fork. "You're not supposed to contact employees. You're not supposed to keep taking the good booth when I'm suspended." He glanced toward the counter. "You followed me? You've eaten meatloaf here every Thursday for 11 years. They changed it. To what? Turkey. That's devastating." I slid into the booth. Mateo did not smile. "I can't give you a statement," he said. "I didn't ask for one." "Evan asked if you contacted me." "When?" "Tuesday." He asked everybody. A waitress brought coffee without asking. I wrapped both hands around the mug. "Are the Meridian route cards still clipped to the carts?" "No." "Where are they?" Evan collected them, said there were duplicate instructions on the floor. Of course he had noticed the cards. Resistance was useful only until the other person saw where it lived. "Did you keep anything?" Mateo looked toward the windows. "I have rent. My wife's hours got cut. Evan controls overtime." "I know. Do you?" The question was quiet and fair. I took the severance packet from my bag and set it beside the sugar dispenser. "I know what 12 weeks looks like when you need it." He read the first page without touching it. "You taking this?" "I don't know." "You always know." Apparently that was irritating people. He pushed the packet back. They moved Meridian's finished carts to East Storage on Monday. Tuesday morning, the route cards were gone and the seals were broken. Why break seals on finished carts? He said they needed recounting. Did they? No. Who broke them? I did. Dispatch order. Each security seal carried a number matched to its route card. Once broken, it went into the dock bin until the route closed. Lena's annoying rule, people called it, usually while obeying. Were they thrown out? Mateo took a paper napkin from the dispenser and wiped gravy from his thumb. "The route never closed," he said. He reached into his shirt pocket and placed 4 narrow strips of blue plastic on the table. Each one bore a Meridian seal number. I looked at him. "This isn't a statement," he said. "It's trash you forgot to make us throw away." I stared at the 4 strips until the numbers settled into sequence. "Don't give these to me," I said. Mateo's eyebrows rose. "You want them or not?" "I want you to put them back in the dock exception envelope and write down when you remove them from the bin. That sounds more like work than trash." It became work when he broke sealed carts without closing the route. He collected the strips with 2 fingers. "You think that envelope is safe?" "I think your signature is safer than my purse." He considered that, then tucked them back into his pocket. "Take a picture," he said. I photographed each seal beside the date on the diner's paper placemat. Then I photographed all 4 together. Mateo watched me email the images to myself. "What happens if I get fired?" he asked. "You tell the truth about why you retained them." "That's not what I asked." "No." I put my phone down. "It isn't." His fork scraped the plate. I can't promise you anything, I said. I don't have a badge, a title, or 12 weeks of courage. If they ask whether we met, don't lie. You could lie. I'm terrible at it. You're not terrible. You just get offended halfway through. That made me laugh. He pointed his fork at the severance packet. You sign that, you can't help anybody. If I don't sign it, I might not be able to help myself. Then eat something before you decide. You get righteous when your blood sugar drops. He pushed the untouched dinner roll across the table. My phone rang while I was tearing it in half. Evan. Mateo looked at the screen and slid out of the booth. Stay, I said. I suddenly need pie. He carried his plate to the counter. I answered. Hello? You're meeting employees. I'm having coffee in a public diner with Mateo Ruiz. I looked toward the counter. Mateo had his back to me, but one of the line cooks had just come through the swinging door. Information really did move faster than linen. Did you call to review my lunch? I called because Meridian has requested you attend the Cure conference. Conference? Don't play games. Naomi copied you. My company email is disabled. Silence. He had forgotten. When is it? I asked. Monday at 9. Will I be attending as an employee? You're suspended. Then why would I participate in a customer meeting on behalf of Voss? You're a fact witness. I'm not a lamp, Evan. You don't get to put me in the room where it helps and store me somewhere else afterward. I'm trying to prevent this from getting worse. So am I. No, you're enjoying it. I looked at the severance agreement and my own blue line through the acknowledgement. You know me better than that. I thought I did. His voice had lost the managerial polish. For a moment he sounded like the cousin who once drove across town at midnight because my kitchen sink had started spraying water at the ceiling. He had shut off the wrong valve, soaked both of us, and stayed until dawn anyway. Then he said, Sharon told me about the mortgage. My hand tightened around the phone. What about it? 12 weeks is a fair offer. My mother's finances are not yours to use. It's family money. It's my money. Everything is family when you need us. The minute we need you, suddenly you're an ethics department. I ended the call. Mateo returned with 2 slices of pie. Emergency? He asked. Apparently, my mother's mortgage is a negotiation strategy. He sat down slowly. That bad? It was pecan until you got back. That evening, Naomi sent the Cure conference invitation to my personal address. Attendees included Naomi, Luis, the Meridian's Regional Operations Vice President, Evan, Aunt Sharon, Denise, and me. Her note contained 2 lines. Your participation is requested because the service agreement identifies you as operational contact and because your access status is material to our review. Please bring the original instruction. I forwarded it to Denise with one question. In what capacity am I authorized to attend? She answered 20 minutes later. Voss Textile will compensate your time. You may answer factual questions. You are not authorized to make commitments on behalf of the company. It was the first money I had earned in 4 days. On Friday morning, a revised suspension notice arrived. It added solicitation of employee records and demanded the return of all company property by 5 that afternoon, including Evan's original instruction. I drove to the plant with the order sealed inside a clear document sleeve. Curtis met me in the lobby. I'm supposed to take that, he said. Denise told me not to surrender it without documenting transfer. Curtis produced a clipboard. I've been documenting things since 6. The form listed 1 company tablet returned Monday, 1 radio returned Monday, 1 access badge, deactivated and retained by employee, and 1 original operational instruction. Retained by employee? I asked. Pending customer review. Who wrote that? Denise. I signed. Curtis signed. He handed me a carbon copy and looked toward the dispatch office. Evan came through the glass door. I'll take it, he said. Denise's form says I retain it pending customer review. I'm the general manager, and she's conducting the review. It's company property. So is the lobby camera. It can watch us follow the form. Curtis stared at the ceiling. Evan stopped 3 feet from me. He looked as though he had not slept. His belt grease cuff had been replaced by a pale blue shirt. but he had missed a button near the waist and corrected it while we stood there. "Did Mateo give you security seals?" he asked. "No." "Did you photograph them?" I said nothing. He nodded as if silence were a confession. "Those seals prove the carts were reopened for inventory verification. They prove they were reopened. Same thing. Not remotely. Lena, you're building a conspiracy out of a bad service day. You wrote an order. You moved carts. You locked me out. I didn't build any of that. I moved carts to protect the launch that is paying half the floor's wages next quarter. You could have delayed Caldera's inspection by 2 hours. And tell them what? Sorry, our legacy account had a pipe burst, so your national rollout can wait? Yes." His laugh was short and exhausted. "This is why you've been in the same job 14 years. The sentence landed cleanly. Evan saw that it had." Regret appeared on his face, then got pushed aside by urgency. "You are very good at protecting what exists," he said. "I am trying to make sure there is something left to protect. You don't get to call me small because I counted the capacity you sold. I didn't call you small. You didn't have to." The ironer alarm sounded beyond the glass. 2 accusing notes. Neither of us looked toward it. "I found a way to recover Meridian," he said. "Clearmont can process the next 2 turns. We truck it there, absorb the margin, and get through the week. Clearmont isn't approved for Meridian. They're HLAC accredited. They aren't listed on the service agreement. Naomi doesn't need a plant tour. She needs clean napkins." She froze releases. We picked up from the convention center before the freeze was entered. My stomach went cold. "Where is that linen?" "Being processed. You sent Meridian inventory to an unapproved subcontractor after they requested executive review?" I honored a pickup that was already dispatched. "Did you record transfer seals?" His face changed. The glass door opened behind him. Denise stepped into the lobby with a file folder against her chest. "Evan," she said, "the Caldera allocation meeting is waiting." "We're talking. I can see that." Her gaze went from him to me, then to the clear sleeve under my arm. "Lena retains the original until Monday," she said. Evan's mouth tightened. "You report to me." "I report financial controls to both owners. This is operations. It became financial when Meridian froze billing." For the first time since he killed my badge, Evan looked isolated. It lasted only a second. Then he straightened his jacket and became the man who had sold Caldera on a plant tour, while Boiler 2 leaked into a bucket. "Fine," he said. "Bring your paper Monday." He pushed through the glass door. Denise waited until he was out of earshot. "Did he mention Clearmont?" "Yes." "What exactly?" I told her. She shut her eyes briefly. "There is a freight invoice." "For Meridian inventory?" "The carrier notation says hospitality recovery load." "Did he bill it to Caldera implementation?" Her eyes opened. "I guessed," I said. "You shouldn't." "Did he?" Denise shifted the folder in her arms. "Monday, factual questions. Is the machine log for Ironer 4 retained?" "Monday. My capacity reports?" "Monday, Lena. Do you have the blue route cards?" That earned a longer pause. "I have photographs taken during the floor count," she said. "Before or after Evan collected them?" "Go home." It was not an answer, but it was the first good news I had heard all week. Sunday dinner happened without me. My mother called at 4 and asked whether I was coming. I could hear silverware being laid out in the background. "Is Evan there?" "He's bringing Sharon." "Then no. You can't avoid your own family." "I'm not avoiding them. I'm refusing to discuss a customer investigation over pot roast. We're having chicken." "Then I'm definitely out." She did not laugh. "You sent back the agreement," she said. "How do you know?" Sharon told me. I crossed out a false statement. "You could have asked them to change it." I did. I sent my version Friday. "What version?" 12 weeks of pay, insurance, no admission, and a mutual agreement not to misrepresent what happened. My mother was quiet. "Evan says you also asked for your job back." "I asked for reinstatement with written authority over contract exceptions." "That sounds like his job." It sounds like mine before he decided it wasn't. A cabinet closed on her end. I can't keep doing this between you, she said. I didn't put you between us. You never think you do. The exhaustion in her voice took all the fight out of mine. I sat on the edge of my couch. Did the payment go through? I asked. That isn't the point. Did it? Yes. Then let me handle my part. What if there isn't a company left when you're done being right? I looked at the blue pencil on my coffee table. Beside it lay the carbon receipt from Curtis, the photographs of the seals, and my marked severance agreement. Do you think that's what I'm doing? I think you've been cleaning up after this family so long that you don't know how angry you are. I had no answer ready. My mother lowered her voice. Evan was always going to be forgiven for reaching too far. You were always going to be blamed for not catching him. That doesn't make it okay. No, it makes it expensive. After we hung up, I ate a sandwich over the sink and prepared for Monday. I did not build a dramatic binder. I made a single timeline on yellow paper using only events I had witnessed. Beside each event, I wrote the record that should support it. Machine log, route card, seal, email, badge record, freight invoice. Where I did not possess the record, I left the space blank. At 8:10 Monday morning, Denise sent the materials Voss intended to present. Evan's revised timeline said Meridian had been notified of Ironer 4 maintenance at 7:45. A type note attributed to Luis read, "Customer understands reserve may be delayed." I called Luis once. "I never said that," he told me. "Do you have your overnight log?" Every call, every seal, every headache. Bring it. At 8:52, I entered the Grand Meridian through the conference entrance carrying my purse and the original order in its clear sleeve. The blue china pencil was tucked behind my ear. Naomi waited outside the meeting room. She looked at the pencil, then at the signed page under my arm. "Before we go in," she said, "I need a straight answer. Are you here to protect your job, your family, or our account?" "Yes," I said. For the first time all week, Naomi smiled. "Good," she said. At least one person came prepared to tell the truth. Naomi opened the door and let me enter first. The conference room overlooked the hotel's receiving drive. Below us, vendors rolled produce, flowers, and liquor through separate bays, with the practiced impatience of people who had 10 minutes for a 9-minute task. Evan sat beside Aunt Sharon at the far end of the table. He had arranged 3 folders in front of him and placed a Voss textile pen squarely across each one. Denise sat to their right with her own folder unopened. Luis occupied a chair near the window, still wearing his facilities radio. Naomi introduced the Meridian's Regional Operations Vice President, Camille Warren, a compact woman with reading glasses hanging from a red cord. Camille shook my hand and looked at the clear sleeve under my arm. "That's the original?" she asked. "Yes. Keep it with you until we request it." Evan's eyes went to Aunt Sharon. Sharon's mouth tightened. Naomi took the chair opposite him. "This is a cure conference under Section 11 of our service agreement," she said. "We are here to establish what happened, determine current inventory status, and decide whether Voss can continue serving this property and our regional group." Evan leaned forward. "We appreciate the chance to correct what was, at its core, a difficult capacity decision during 2 simultaneous service emergencies." "Caldera was an emergency?" Camille asked. "A major launch with contractual deadlines. Then it was scheduled." Evan paused. "The volume concentration was higher than projected." "That is also scheduled," Camille said. Aunt Sharon stepped in. "We're not here to argue definitions. Our plant faced an unexpected hotel recovery request during a national rollout. Evan made a decision to protect both accounts, then adjusted when additional capacity became available." Naomi slid a copy of his revised timeline toward the center of the table. "This states the Grand Meridian was informed at 7:45 that emergency reserve would be delayed because Ironer 4 required maintenance." "That's correct," Evan said. Luis lifted one hand. "No, it isn't." Everyone looked at him. He set a spiral notebook on the table and opened it to a page crowded with block lettering. "At 7:42, I called dispatch. At 7:44, an operator said Lena was on the floor. At 7:46, Evan called me back and said he needed more time. I asked whether the reserve was moving. He said they were reviewing options. Evan opened one of his folders. You said you understood. I said I understood your words. I did not agree to a delay. The note reflects the substance of the conversation. Luis turned the notebook around. Beside 7:46, he had written, EV, more time, no release confirmed. Where does that say I was informed Ironer 4 was down? Evan's fingers remained on his folder. Naomi looked at me. When did you first hear that Ironer 4 required maintenance? I didn't. It ran all morning. Doing what? Caldera napkins. Evan exhaled. Intermittently. The issue affected consistent production. Denise opened her folder. I pulled the machine record, she said. Ironer 4 ran from 5:58 until 9:36, with 2 stops totaling 11 minutes. Both stops were belt alignment resets. Preventive maintenance was logged Wednesday, not Monday. Aunt Sharon stared at her. Why wasn't that in our packet? It is now. You work for Voss. Yes. Denise placed the machine log beside Luis's notebook. That is why the record should be accurate. Camille adjusted her glasses. Ms. Voss, may we see the instruction? I removed the page from its sleeve and put it on the table without sliding it away. Camille leaned over to read. Naomi read beside her. Evan's blue signature looked brighter under the conference room lights. Who received this? Camille asked. I did, I said. When? Shortly before 5 that morning. What did you understand it to require? All finishing and dispatch resources went to Caldera. Meridian Reserve could not be released until Caldera outbound was complete. I was to manage Meridian's expectations. And did anyone supersede it in writing? No. Evan tapped his pen once against the table. I verbally directed Lena not to circulate an internal staging document. She transmitted it anyway. Naomi looked up. After we requested the name of the manager authorizing deviation, you requested an explanation, not a proprietary instruction. We requested cause, duration, affected inventory, and authorization. This page contains 3 of those 4. It also contains another customer's name and operational allocation, a customer whose work displaced our protected reserve. Aunt Sharon folded her hands. Naomi, you know Lena had options. She could have escalated to ownership. I sent capacity reports, I said. To Evan, Sharon said. He was general manager. You could have called me. At 5 in the morning? You have called me earlier for less. That's true. I met her eyes. And every time, you told me to work it out with Evan. Her face hardened, but she did not deny it. Evan pushed one of his folders toward Camille. This is the capacity analysis Lena sent at 6:26. It shows Meridian could have been recovered after noon without missing the evening banquet turn. It shows an 80-minute shortfall before lunch, I said. It shows multiple ways to rearrange production. It shows the restaurant mats moving to Tuesday and Caldera's inspection slipping 2 hours. You rejected both. Because you omitted the penalty attached to Caldera's inspection. I didn't have the Caldera contract. You refused to share it with operations. I shared the required metrics. You shared the promise after you made it. Camille raised one finger and the room stopped. Did the analysis accurately identify an overlap in committed finishing hours? Denise answered, yes. Was that overlap known before Monday? Yes. Lena flagged it in 3 weekly projections. Evan turned toward her. Those projections assumed full reserve utilization. Meridian had never invoked the full provision. Until a pipe broke, Denise said. That is a 1-in-5-year event. Then we sold the same hour twice on the assumption this would be one of the other 4. Evan sat back. He looked at the ceiling for a moment, gathering himself. I made a calculated risk, he said. The company has an equipment note resetting in October. Restaurant volume has been declining for 3 years. Caldera changes that. It adds stable, multi-market revenue and protects jobs. I believed Meridian could be restored within the day. When the freeze happened, I secured outside capacity so the hotel's next turns could still be processed. He spoke plainly. It was the strongest he had sounded all morning because most of it was true. Camille nodded. Where? Clearmont Linen. Naomi's expression sharpened. Clearmont is not an approved processor. They carry current healthcare laundry accreditation and meet standards exceeding hospitality requirements. That is not approval. The pickup was already in motion when the freeze entered. Luis flipped to another page in his notebook. Our second pickup left at 10:52. Naomi looked at me. When did you send the order? 10:41. She turned to Evan. We froze releases at 10:46. The driver had been dispatched. The inventory had not left our property, Luis said. Evan's voice tightened. I was trying to fulfill the service you're now accusing me of withholding. By sending our inventory to a facility we had not inspected, Naomi said, by using an accredited regional partner during a recovery event. Under whose security seals? I asked. He looked at me. Clearmont doesn't use our numbered route seals, I said. Meridian carts left Voss sealed. If Clearmont opened them, there should be a custody transfer. We maintained custody through our carrier. Where is the transfer record? Evan opened the second folder, searched 2 pages, then a third. Denise placed the freight invoice on the table. The carrier billed the move as a hospitality recovery load, she said. The cost was charged to Caldera Implementation. That was a temporary coding decision, Evan said. Did Meridian inventory travel under a Caldera cost code? Camille asked. Yes, Denise said. Aunt Sharon rubbed 2 fingers against her forehead. That can be corrected. The invoice can, Naomi said. The chain of custody cannot. She looked at me. Tell us about the route cards. I described the blue diagonal mark, the time beside each seal number, and Priya's initials. Denise took out 4 color photographs from the Monday floor count. There they were. The Meridian cards clipped to the reserve carts, blue lines across the tops. My handwriting sat below them. 517, Priya's initials, 4 seal numbers. I opened the photographs on my phone and turned the screen toward Naomi. The broken plastic strips matched all 4. Where are the physical seals? She asked. In the dock exception envelope at Voss, retained by the route supervisor. Evan's eyes narrowed. After Lena solicited them. I told him not to give them to me. You met him while suspended. He kept them because the route never closed. That is our procedure. A procedure you created. Yes, the word came out steadier than I felt. Naomi compared the numbers. Why were sealed carts opened? Evan said, inventory verification. Where is the recount? Another pause. Denise turned a page. No recount was entered. Aunt Sharon looked at Evan. You said there was a recount sheet. There should be. But there isn't, Denise said. The room went quiet except for Luis's radio, hissing once against his belt. Camille removed her glasses. I want to address the employment action, she said. When was Ms. Voss's access disabled? Evan shifted in his chair. After repeated insubordination. What time? Approximately 10:30. Before she transmitted the written instruction? Yes. And was she still the named operational contact under our agreement? Technically. Was another contact designated? I assumed responsibility. Were we notified of that change? No. Naomi placed both palms on the table. You assigned Ms. Voss responsibility for managing our expectations. When she requested accurate written direction, you removed her access. You left the signed order in her possession, maintained her as our contractual contact, and told her to follow it. She did. Evan's cheek tightened. She knew sending it would cause maximum damage. She sent it in direct response to my written request, Naomi said. The damage came from what the instruction said. He looked at Aunt Sharon, but Sharon was studying his signature. Naomi continued. The access removal matters because our exception process depends on your operational contact being able to preserve and report records without retaliation. Disabling that contact during an active deviation, then attempting to replace the underlying reason with a maintenance explanation, is management misconduct affecting our account. The words were delivered in the same tone she might have used to reject an invoice. That made them land harder. Evan's face lost color. I had imagined this moment in ugly little flashes all week. In every version, vindication felt warm. It did not. It felt like standing outside after an alarm, grateful the building had emptied and sick about what might still be burning. Camille closed the folder. "We will not terminate today," she said. "We will issue a conditional cure." Aunt Sharon released a breath. "The conditions are these: full credit for Monday's emergency costs, reimbursement for inspection of the Clearmont load, restoration of dedicated reserve capacity, quarterly service audits for 1 year, and written notice before any protected capacity is diverted. Mr. Evan Voss will have no operational authority over Meridian inventory or reporting." Evan looked at her. "That is not workable. It is the only structure under which we continue. We can assign Denise. Ms. Kwan controls financial records." Naomi said. "We require an operational authority." Everyone's attention shifted to me. I kept my hands under the table. "I'm suspended," I said. "That is an internal Voss decision," Camille replied. "Our requirement is that whoever holds the role can report exceptions without unilateral override. We are not choosing your personnel. We are defining the control." Aunt Sharon found her voice. "We need time to review the cost." "You have 2 business days," Camille said. "Until then, the freeze remains." The meeting ended with paper moving into folders and chairs rolling softly over carpet. Louis squeezed my shoulder on his way out. Denise collected the machine logs but left the photographs in front of Sharon. Evan waited in the hallway while I returned the original order to its sleeve. "You won," he said. "Meridian hasn't released a pound of linen." "You know what I mean." "I don't think I do." He looked through the window at the receiving drive. "Caldera survives because I made decisions nobody else was willing to make. If we had followed your capacity rules, they would have gone somewhere bigger." "Maybe. And then what? We keep polishing service for one hotel group until the equipment note eats us? You could have brought me the actual Caldera commitment before you signed it. You would have told me we couldn't do it. I would have told you what it cost. That is the same thing with you." "No, Evan. It only feels the same when you want the price to belong to someone else." His mouth twisted. "You sent the order because you wanted Naomi to punish me. I sent it because you made me the answer and took away every tool except the truth." For once, he had nothing ready. The conditional cure took 6 weeks to become a working agreement. Meridian released only essential volume during negotiations. My suspension remained unpaid. I lost the company's insurance contribution for 1 month and learned exactly how long a grocery cart could sit in an aisle while I calculated its contents. Caldera agreed to a slower rollout after Denise showed its team the real finishing schedule. They were irritated, not destroyed. Evan kept the account because he had earned enough trust to renegotiate, but Aunt Sharon removed operations from his title. His new role was Vice President of Growth, with every proposed volume commitment requiring a capacity sign-off. My mother came to my house the night before the cure agreement was signed. She brought the chicken salad container with the wrong lid. "I voted yes," she said. "To the Meridian terms?" "To yours. I had asked for back pay, restored insurance contributions, authority over contractual exceptions, and a reporting line to both owners with Denise copied on any override. I also asked the company to remove the false acknowledgement from my file." Sharon agreed. She used several words first. I can imagine. My mother sat at my kitchen table and turned the container slowly between her hands. "I kept asking you to fix it," she said. "I never asked why it was always yours to fix. I put the correct lid on the container. Are you asking now?" "Yes." "Good. I'm still working on the answer. She nodded. It was not an apology large enough to erase the month, but it was one I could use. When I returned to the plant, Curtis stood behind the visitor desk with my replacement badge. "Try not to lose this one," he said. "I'll keep it away from management." The reader flashed green on the first tap. Steam clouded the glass as the door opened. Priya lifted a hand from the cart line. Matteo pretended to inspect a seal until I passed, then said, "Route never closed." Good thing somebody followed procedure. At the dispatch board, a fresh card waited for the Grand Meridian Reserve. I took the blue china pencil from behind my ear and drew one firm diagonal line across the top. Below it, I wrote the date, checked the seal numbers, and added a single word: released.